The cry for help. The emergency beacon had been broadcasting for 3 days straight, its desperate signal reaching every corner of known space. In the Great Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime, representatives from 73 different species had gathered for what many believed would be one of the most important sessions in galactic history. The massive chamber, built to accommodate beings of every size and atmospheric requirement, buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Ambassador Thren of the Zilani stood at the center podium, her usually pristine silver robes, now wrinkled from days without sleep. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their technological mastery and peaceful nature. They had given the galaxy faster-than-light communication, quantum computers, and energy manipulation techniques that had revolutionized civilization. Now, for the first time in their recorded history, they were begging for help. The holographic display above the podium showed Zilani Prime in all its former glory. The planet sparkled like a jewel, its cities gleaming with towers of pure energy that rose kilometers into the sky. But as the image shifted to show the current state, gasps echoed through the chamber. Nearly half the planet was dark. Its energy cities collapsed into twisted metal and stone. Where once beautiful gardens of light had grown, now only dead zones remained. Honored representatives, Thren began, her voice carrying clearly through. The chamber's translation systems. 57 days ago, our deep space monitors detected an anomaly approaching our system. We believed it to be a natural phenomenon, perhaps a new form of energy storm. We were wrong. The display shifted to show microscopic images of what looked like living electricity. The organisms moved with purpose, consuming energy in any form they encountered. They fed on power cells, drained fusion reactors, and even absorbed the bioelectric fields that kept living beings alive. We call them the void hunger, Thren continued. They consume all forms of energy. They reproduce by splitting every few hours. They have no known natural predators and show no signs of intelligence beyond their drive to feed. In 57 days, they have consumed 40% of our world's energy infrastructure. Our scientists calculate that Zilani Prime will be completely drained within 90 days. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. The Zilani civilization was entirely built around energy manipulation. Without power, their cities would collapse, their life support systems would fail, and 8 billion Zilani would die. We have tried everything within our knowledge, Thren said, her voice breaking slightly. We have attempted to contain them with force fields, but they consume the energy that powers the barriers. We have tried to relocate our population, but our ships require energy they drain faster than we can produce it. We have sought to communicate with them, thinking they might be intelligent, but they show no response to any form of contact. Representative Korth of the hegemony species stood up. His crystalline form caught the chamber's light as he spoke. What specific assistance does Zilani require? Thren's hands trembled as she activated a new holographic display. We need energy sources that the void hunger cannot consume. We need weapons that can destroy them without using conventional power. We need ships capable of evacuating 8 billion people. We need new worlds where our people can rebuild their civilization. We need technologies we do not possess and resources beyond our current capabilities. The list was staggering. What the Zilani needed amounted to the combined resources of dozens of major civilizations working together for years. Slowly, representatives began to respond. The Altori offered their quantum research facilities to study the creatures. The Nexari promised to provide 3 evacuation ships, enough to save perhaps 50,000 Zilani. The Crystalline Confederacy pledged their most advanced computers to run predictive models. One by one, species offered what they could. Each offer was carefully measured and appropriate to their capabilities. The Altori were known for research. The Nexari had small but efficient evacuation fleets. The Confederacy possessed the galaxy's most powerful computational systems. But even as the offers accumulated, everyone in the chamber understood the terrible mathematics of the situation. The combined assistance being offered might save a few 100,000 Zilani at best. The vast majority of their population would still face extinction. In the human section of the chamber, Captain Sarah Chen sat quietly, listening to each offer. Humans had been members of the Galactic Trade Council for only 15 years, since they had developed faster-than-light travel and made contact with galactic civilization. Earth was classified as a Class 3 death world, a planet so hostile that most species required full environmental suits just to survive in its atmosphere for minutes. Most council members still viewed humans with a mixture of curiosity and concern. They were clearly intelligent and had developed impressive technology, but they came from a world where everything seemed designed to kill any life that evolved there. Hurricane winds, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, predators with crushing jaws, diseases that could wipe out entire populations, and weather patterns that could kill with temperature alone. Chen watched the holographic display showing the dying Zilani world. She had seen similar devastation during the Australian extinction event of 2387, when genetically modified locusts had consumed an entire continent's ecosystem in weeks. She had commanded relief operations during the Mars colony plague, when a mutated virus had threatened humanity's first major off-world settlement. Each crisis had taught humanity one fundamental lesson. When people are dying, you don't calculate costs or measure responses. You do whatever it takes. Chairman Voss called for order as the last species finished their offer. Are there any additional pledges of assistance? Chen stood up slowly. The chamber grew quiet as attention focused on the human representative. Many species were curious about what the people from the infamous death world might contribute to such a massive crisis. Captain Chen, Chairman Voss said formally, does Earth offer assistance to the Zilani people? Chen looked directly at Ambassador Thren, noting the desperate hope in the alien diplomat's large eyes. We'll take care of it. The chamber was silent for several seconds. Many representatives looked confused by the simple statement. Respected Captain, Thren said carefully, I fear you may not understand the scope of our crisis. We need evacuation for 8 billion people, energy weapons that function against creatures that consume power, and terraforming equipment to rebuild entire worlds. This exceeds what any single species has ever attempted. Chen nodded. I understand perfectly. You need to save your people and rebuild your civilization. We'll handle it. Representative Korth's crystalline form flickered with agitation. Captain Chen, the resource requirements for this operation would strain the combined military and industrial capabilities of multiple major civilizations. Are you certain that Earth can meaningfully contribute to an effort of this magnitude? Chen pulled out her quantum communicator and activated it without ceremony. The device connected her instantly to Earth's Colonial Defense Command, 23 light-years away. General Martinez, this is Chen. We have a situation. 8 billion civilians facing extinction from an energy-consuming organism. Total planetary. Evacuation required within 90 days. Full humanitarian deployment authorized under Emergency Protocol 7. The voice that responded was clear and calm. Understood, Captain. What's the threat assessment? Hostile organisms that consume all forms of conventional energy, reproduction rate every few hours. No known countermeasures effective. Planet-wide infestation spreading exponentially. Copy that. Initiating full deployment. ETA to your position is 6 days for the first wave. Second and third waves will follow, at 48-hour intervals. Terraforming Command is spinning up for complete ecosystem reconstruction. Is there anything else? Chen looked around the chamber at the staring representatives. Negative, General. We have everything we need. Good hunting, Captain. Martinez out. Chen closed the communicator and turned back to the stunned assembly. Our ships will begin arriving within the week. We'll need detailed information about your people's biological and cultural requirements for long-term habitation planning. Ambassador Thren stared at Chen with an expression of hope, mixed with disbelief. How many ships will Earth be sending? Chen paused as if calculating. The first deployment will be 156 vessels. Additional fleets will arrive as needed. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. 156 ships was larger than the entire space force of most Council species. The humans were talking about this crisis as if it were a standard military operation. Captain Chen, Chairman Voss said carefully, Are you authorized to commit Earth's resources on this scale without consulting your government? Chen smiled, for the first time since the session began. Chairman, when someone needs help, humans don't stop to ask permission. Ambassador Thren, your people called for aid. You'll have it. As Chen left the chamber to coordinate with Earth, the other representatives sat in stunned silence. None of them had ever witnessed a response like this to any crisis. They were beginning to understand that they had fundamentally misunderstood what beings from a death world considered an appropriate response to other people in danger. Across the galaxy, Earth's military-industrial complex began mobilizing resources on a scale that had never been attempted in galactic history. Within hours of Chen's communication, every major shipyard in the Sol system was working around the clock. The Luna construction yards began assembling specialized evacuation vessels designed to carry millions of people. The Mars Industrial Complex started manufacturing energy weapons that used principles derived from Earth's most hostile environments. The Europa Research Station initiated development of anti-energy organisms based on extremophile bacteria from Earth's deepest ocean trenches. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Earth's Xenobiological Research Institute, coordinating with teams across human space. As Earth's leading expert on hostile organisms, she had been given complete authority to develop countermeasures against the void hunger. Status report, she called to her team leaders scattered across multiple screens. Titan Station has successfully cultivated energy-negative bacteria based on samples from the Mariana Trench thermal vents, reported Dr. Kim from the outer system. Initial tests show they can survive in energy-drain environments and actually absorb the void hunger organisms. Excellent. What about the weapon systems? Series manufacturing has completed the first batch of quantum disruption cannons, answered Commander Torres from the asteroid belt facilities. They use gravitational manipulation instead of energy projection. The void hunger creatures can't consume gravity waves. Vasquez nodded with satisfaction. And evacuation preparations? Colonial administration has identified 47 worlds suitable for Zilani habitation, reported Director Chen from Earth's capital. Infrastructure development has begun on all of them simultaneously. We're building cities designed specifically for energy-based life forms. As reports came in from across human space, one thing became clear. Earth was not just offering aid to the Zilani. They were preparing to save an entire civilization and help them rebuild it stronger than before. The Deathworld's children had learned that when facing extinction, there was no such thing as an excessive response. When Deathworlders deliver, the first human ships appeared at the edge of the Zilani system, exactly 6 days after Captain Chen's promise to the Galactic Trade Council. The Zilani Deep Space Monitoring Stations detected the fleet while it was still 12 hours out, and what their sensors showed seemed impossible. Ambassador Thren stood in the orbital command center above her dying homeworld, watching the scanner displays with growing amazement. Run the analysis again, she told the technician operating the sensor array. Ma'am, I've verified the readings 5 times. The data is accurate. 156 human vessels approaching in battle formation. The largest ship registers as over 4 kilometers in length. Several vessels are showing energy signatures we've never encountered before. Thren pressed her hand against the observation window, looking down at Zilani Prime. The void hunger had spread even further during the past week. What had once been her world's most beautiful energy cities were now dark craters. The creatures were consuming her planet faster than their worst projections had predicted. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, she ordered. The main display activated, showing the bridge of the human flagship. A woman in military uniform appeared on screen, surrounded by crew members working at stations filled with equipment that seemed designed for warfare rather than humanitarian assistance. Ambassador Thren, the woman said with calm professionalism, I'm Admiral Rodriguez commanding the 1st Humanitarian Fleet. We're here to help. Thren stared at the display. The term humanitarian fleet seemed almost absurd when applied to a military force larger than most species used for planetary conquest. Admiral, I must admit that your response has exceeded all our expectations. The scale of your deployment is unprecedented. Rodriguez nodded. Ma'am, when humans commit to helping, we don't do things halfway. We understand you have 8 billion people facing extinction. That's unacceptable to us. Behind Rodriguez, Thren could see crew members monitoring dozens of screens showing different aspects of the Zilani system. They were conducting detailed scans of the planet, analyzing the void hunger organisms, and coordinating with other ships in the fleet. Admiral, what exactly is your fleet prepared to do? Thren asked. Everything necessary, Rodriguez replied simply. We're going to eliminate the void hunger, evacuate your population to safety, and help you rebuild your civilization. In that order. On the planet's surface, the first human landing craft were already descending toward the infection zones. Dr. Elena Vasquez commanded the lead science vessel, a massive ship designed to operate in the most hostile environments known to human space. As they entered Zilani Prime's atmosphere, she watched the devastation spread across the continents below. Deploy the first wave of counter-organisms, she ordered her team. From the belly of the ship, specialized containers released clouds of genetically modified bacteria. These organisms had been engineered in Earth's most extreme environments, designed to survive in conditions that would kill normal life. Unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, they actually fed on the same energy sources as the void hunger, but instead of consuming that energy, they converted it into harmless radiation that dissipated into space. Dr. Chen monitored the deployment from the ship's laboratory. Counter-organism deployment successful. The bacteria are establishing colonies in the infected zones. Preliminary readings show void hunger reproduction rates dropping by 60% in treated areas. Meanwhile, the human weapon ships had taken positions in orbit around Zilani Prime. Commander Torres stood on the bridge of the EDS Determination, watching as her crew prepared to deploy humanity's most advanced military technology against an enemy that had seemed invincible. All batteries report ready, announced her weapons officer. Fire, Torres commanded. The quantum disruption cannons fired simultaneously from 12 ships. Instead of using energy beams that the void hunger could consume, these weapons manipulated space-time itself. The gravitational waves they generated tore through the infected areas, disrupting the creature's ability to process energy without giving them anything to feed on. On the surface, entire swarms of void hunger organisms simply ceased to exist. As the gravitational distortion scattered their energy-based forms across multiple dimensions, the evacuation fleet was already working on the other side of the planet. Captain Maria Santos commanded a ship designed to carry 2 million refugees at once, complete with full life support systems adapted for Zilani biology. Her ship was one of 20 identical vessels, each capable of evacuating major population centers in a single loading cycle. Evacuation Bay 7 reports full capacity, announced her logistics officer. 2 million Zilani civilians secured and ready for transport to New Haven Colony. Santos nodded. Inform the colony ships to prepare for arrival. Medical teams should be standing by. Many of these people have been exposed to energy drain effects. Across human space, 47 colonial worlds were simultaneously preparing to receive Zilani refugees. Each world had been selected for its compatibility with Zilani biology and was being rapidly modified with infrastructure designed specifically for energy-based life forms. On New Geneva, Director Park supervised the construction of an entire city, built from crystalline energy conductors that would allow the Zilani to live comfortably while their homeworld was being restored. How long until the first residential towers are online? 18 hours, replied her chief engineer. We're building them using Zilani architectural principles, but with human construction techniques. They'll be more resilient than anything on their original world. Back in the Zilani system, the battle against the void hunger was proceeding faster than anyone had thought possible. Dr. Vasquez watched her tactical displays with satisfaction as the infection zones shrank hour by hour. Counter-organism colonies have achieved 95% coverage of infected areas, reported her science officer. Void hunger reproduction has stopped entirely in treated zones. Existing organisms are being systematically eliminated. Admiral Rodriguez received constant updates from all fleet elements. The human response was working with a precision that amazed even her. Status report on planetary restoration? Terraforming ships are beginning atmospheric rehabilitation, replied her operations officer. The energy drain effects are being reversed. Preliminary projections show the planet will be habitable again within 6 months and fully restored within 2 years. But the humans weren't just solving the immediate crisis. They were building something better than what had existed before. Commander Blake supervised the installation of new energy generation systems that would make Zilani Prime immune to future void hunger infestations. These quantum tap generators will provide more power than the Zilani had before the crisis, but they operate on principles that energy-draining organisms can't access. Ambassador Thren watched from orbit as her world began to heal before her eyes. The dark zones were shrinking. The energy cities were being rebuilt with human assistance, incorporating technologies that would make them stronger and safer than ever before. Admiral Rodriguez, she said over the communication channel, I must ask, why? Your people have committed resources that could fund the colonization of entire star systems. You're saving a species you barely know. What do you gain from this? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment before responding. Ambassador, humans come from a world that tries to kill us every day. We've learned that when someone needs help, you give everything you have, because someday we might need help too. And because 8 billion people dying when we could save them is unacceptable to us. The operation continued for 3 weeks. By the end, not only had every Zilani been evacuated to safety, but their homeworld had been completely restored and upgraded with technology that made it more powerful and resilient than ever before. The human fleet had eliminated every trace of the void hunger, established permanent monitoring systems to prevent future infestations, and helped design new cities that incorporated both Zilani energy mastery and human engineering principles. When the evacuation fleet returned with the Zilani refugees, they found a homeworld that was not just saved, but transformed. The energy cities now gleamed brighter than ever, powered by quantum generators that were immune to energy-draining attacks. New defensive systems protected the planet from any similar future threats. The orbital infrastructure had been expanded to support interstellar trade and research on a scale the Zilani had never imagined. Ambassador Thren stood in her restored capital city, looking up at the human ships preparing to depart. Admiral Rodriguez had come down to the surface for the formal ceremony marking the end of the operation. Admiral, how can we ever repay what you've done for us? Thren asked. Rodriguez smiled. You don't need to repay anything. Just remember that when someone else needs help, you have the power to make a difference. That's what we hope everyone learns from this. As the human fleet departed, representatives from dozens of galactic species arrived to see what had been accomplished. What they found changed their understanding of what was possible when civilizations committed themselves fully to helping others. The Zilani system had become more than just a restored world. It had become a symbol of what could be achieved when someone answered a call for help with everything they had. And across the galaxy, other species began to understand why the beings from the death world called Earth approached humanitarian crises like military campaigns. When human children grew up fighting for survival against their own planet, they learned that there was no such thing as an impossible rescue. There were only people who needed help, and people who were willing to give everything to provide it. Tekker. Story of the Zilani rescue became legend throughout galactic civilization. But for humans, it was just another Tuesday. Because when Deathworlders decide to help, they don't send aid packages or research teams or token assistance. They send fleets.